Hey, Shalom Israel, we're back, and today is day 8 of month 1, and we're in the Passover countdown. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about Passover and angelic encounters. These two things are kind of interlinked. And in the book of Exodus, in chapter 12, starting in verse 11, it is written, "In this manner you shall eat it," referring to the Passover, "with your belt fastened, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is Yahuwah's Passover. For I will pass through the land of Egypt that night, and I will strike all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, on all the gods of Egypt. I will execute judgments. I am Yahuwah. The blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and no plague will befall you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. This day shall be for you a memorial day, and you shall keep it as a feast to Yahuwah throughout your generations, as a statute forever. You shall keep it as a feast." And so we see, actually in Hebrew, in this chapter 12, it talks about Yah striking the Egyptians. And we actually, if we go down to verse 23 in the same chapter, it kind of restates this when Moses is telling the people, "For Yahuwah will pass through to strike the Egyptians. When he sees the blood on the lintel and on the two doorposts, Yahuwah will pass over the door and will not allow the destroyer to enter your house to strike you." So it talks about a destroyer entering the house to strike them if they don't have the blood on the doorpost. And so when we go to the book of Psalms, it may give a little bit more insight, even though it is Yah executing judgment against the Egyptians. We see that he, a lot of times in judgment, will use the host, the angelic, or the messengers, the malachim in Hebrew, and will execute. So in Psalm 78, where it recounts this story, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I just want to give a little bit of context here. It gives a little bit more description of what's going on. I'm going to pick up in this is Psalm 78, verse 48. "He gave over their cattle to the hail, and their flocks to thunderbolts. He let loose on them his burning anger, wrath, indignation, and distress, a company of destroying angels," or malachim. "He made a path for his anger and did not spare them from death. He gave their lives over to the plague. He struck down every firstborn in Egypt, the first fruits of their strength in the tents of Ham." So we can see there it says a company of destroying angels were sent forth. So a lot of times, especially when it comes to Passover, there is a lot of angelic activity. We also read an account, actually there's an account connecting this whole idea of destroying angels at the end of 2 Samuel. I'll just read this real quick. It's 24, and I'll pick up in verse 15. But before I do, I just want to give a little bit of context. So in 2 Samuel, David takes a census of the people. He wanted to see how many, soldiers they have. And I think in northern Israel they had like 800,000, and in Yehuda they had 500,000. So basically they had over 1 million man army basically. But they were supposed to, according to the law, when they would ever do a census, they were supposed to give a half shekel, redemption of a half shekel for every man counted. But that doesn't seem like it happened. And he specifically says in the law that if you don't do that, it's connected to a plague. Well, long story short, the prophet comes to David and said, "Hey, you kind of messed up here." And basically Yah had revealed that he was going to punish David, but he was going to choose between 3 different things. Whether there was going to be a 3-year famine, 3 months of your foes chasing you and you fleeing, or 3 days of pestilence. And so David chose the 3 days of pestilence. So we pick up the story, because he didn't want to fall into the hands of his enemy. We pick up the story in verse 15. So Yahuwah sent a pestilence on Israel from the morning until the appointed time. And there died of the people of Dan to Beersheba 70,000 men. And when the angel stretched out his hand toward Jerusalem to destroy it, Yahuwah relented from the calamity and said to the angel who was working destruction among the people, "It is enough. Now stay your hand." And the angel of Yahuwah was by the threshing floor, Arna, the Jebusite. And so we see that Yahweh works with the host, and there's a lot of angelic activity in this story. And sometimes they're redeeming, they're protecting those his people, and sometimes he's executing judgment, using the angels for judgment. And so there's another story in Isaiah, I believe it's 37, that a lot of people are familiar with the story, but they don't realize the context, the Passover. It's in 37. I will pick up in verse 36, and I'll read it, then maybe give a little explanation. And the angel of Yahuwah went out and struck down 185,000 in the camp of the Syrians. And when the people arose early in the morning, behold, these were all dead bodies. Sennacherib, the king of Syria, departed and returned home and lived at Nineveh. A lot of people don't realize that this is believed to be Passover night, the year when Hezekiah and Israel was being threatened by the Syrians of Sennacherib, and Yah sent an angel, and as is recorded here, 185,000 died in one night. It is recorded in a couple different historical things that this was actually Passover night. Again, another judgment using angels to execute judgment. And I think actually in this it says that the angel of Yahuwah here. This is also recorded in Kings and Chronicles. So anyways, in the renewed covenant writings, this angels are also mentioned when we read Messiah, when he kept Passover in the book of Luke, chapter 22. Let me get there. I believe it's verse 40. Yeah, I think it's 42-ish, around there. Yes, I'll start in 42. It's 43, but saying, "Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done." And there appeared to him an angel, or a malach, from heaven, strengthening him. So here, even Yahusha on Passover night, again, we have angelic activity as he's crying out in the garden. An angel comes and strengthens him to complete the work. So very powerful. And throughout the scripture, we see a lot of angelic activity, especially in the season of judgment, which Passover is obviously a major historical event. And I'm going to read one more. There's a lot, I guess we could do a whole thing on the angelic encounters. But in the book of Matthew, we also see at the end of the age that it's Matthew 13. And I'll start in let me see where I'll start in verse 41. The whole chapter 13 is loaded, but the Son of Man will send his angels, or malachim, and they will gather out of his kingdom all causes of sin and lawbreakers, and throw them into a fiery furnace. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He who has ears, let him hear. So again, we see the angels, even at the end of the age, executing judgment of the wicked and lawbreakers that are thrown into a fiery furnace. And so, and we also see the angels lifting up in Daniel 12. It says Michael will rise up, basically the protector of the people, a Malachim over his people for protection. So, angels are definitely the host. Yah obviously is a king, and he has a court of these hosts of these angels that do his word. Whatever he speaks, they accomplish a lot of the things that he wants done on the earth, whether it be for judgment or saving his people. So it's just another interesting tidbit about Passover connected with the angelic. Shalom.